Hello everyone, my name is Dawn Hardwick and welcome to my new YouTube series which I have chosen to call Unlocked. This is going to be a series of interviews and chats and performances with composers who have given me their music, and I learned it during lockdown 2020 when we were all so sadly out of work and stuck at home. So this is kind of like a little journal of what I've been doing, what I've been up to. Loads to expect, loads to look forward to. We have amazing music from people such as Colin Riley, Gavin Higgins, Patrick Nunn, John Sarthis, so many things coming up. This first video, however, is from the brilliant Mr. Adrian Sutton. I have been playing his piece called Blackheath Crosslight, and I really hope you enjoy this video with chats with Adrian, Zoom workshops where we discussed what we do, and then there is a full performance of the piece at the end. If you liked this video, then please do subscribe to my new channel, and you'll be notified whenever I put out a new video, and hopefully they will be coming thick and fast. So this one is all about Mr. Adrian Sutton. I hope you enjoy.
Oh, gorgeous! Thank you. That's brilliant. I can't.
Thanks. A couple of sticky little moments.
But I mean, it's. I can't describe that feeling that a composer has when you should hear things like that for the first time, properly played by a human being. So the studio is all really well. Oh, thanks so much. That's brilliant. So tell me what issues you found, if any, during rehearsing it, or I mean, is there anything? You're the pro pianist. You can tell me stuff about it. But
definitely, I definitely have quite a lot of pedaling questions and things like that, and a bit of voicing and what you really want. To be honest, apart from it being, it's quite stretchy.
Yeah.
But that's fine for me because I've got quite comfortable tens.
So I've got just a couple of general notes, just tempo-wise, really. I think the opening, I've marked it as 40. You can afford to bring it up a little bit in tempo, like the tiniest nads. I mean, literally like a BPM or something, just so that it doesn't become too static. Yeah, so from C to D should feel like the screw is just being ever so slightly tightened, ever so very slightly. It's almost what you had there. And then brought back down again for D. I'm talking about tension-wise, so that D, you can do the same thing and slowly tighten the screw and ratchet up and ratchet up and ratchet up, and obviously over a bigger time frame, which will give you more leeway to tighten that stuff over that longer time span. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. Yeah. But that's what it sort of needs. It just needs those slight pullbacks, hesitations, and then emphasizing into these other things. Letter G, we can start coming down the hill, relaxing things from letter G. I wonder whether we can do it a bit earlier than you're currently doing it. So
sure, I kind of gave it quite a lot. So went bar before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's right. Just a touch more rubato to bring things back down to the level we had before. There, like you're doing, is perfect. Just a small technical note: end of 52, going into 53. The rails is just a bit too much. Maybe. I think it was Poco. Exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. No, the comments. I think it's just this is an amazing job that you've done.
Oh, thank you.
Good
Thank you. I
job.
absolutely love it. So, Adrian, I would love you to tell us all about Blackheath Crosslight, about your piece.
Well, I am very lucky to live right on Blackheath, and anybody who knows Blackheath will know it's a heath. Obviously, it's common land. It's a big expanse, sort of like an oasis for a little island, really, in what's otherwise quite a horrible part of southeast London. One of the things about it is that because it's very long, the sun in the west in autumn casts these long, long shadows across the heath. And I was just walking back. I think I might have been coming back from a run or something. I went running in Greenwich Park, and it had been this brilliant summer, and it's just been amazing weather, and everybody had really enjoyed themselves. All of a sudden, I don't know whether I just imagined it. I was suddenly struck by just how everybody felt grateful. It felt to me like everybody just felt grateful for an amazing summer. And this is the kind of closing of the curtain. Yeah. And it had a real sort of poignancy about it. And I think I said in the program note, it's almost like summer was saying, right, that's your lot, see you next year, sort of thing. And then, then the weather was awful the next day and sort of started chucking it down. Had this flash of inspiration. I'd just like to try and capture that mixture of stillness and poignancy and gratefulness, all rolled up into one. Very difficult to describe what I mean, really. Now, obviously, because it's a piano piece that lasts however long it does, I don't know, it's about 5 minutes or something, I have to have a shape. So I started it off in a certain mood and took it somewhere and then brought it back. But like more and more of my pieces I'm doing these days, I'm sort of writing it in the studio and responding sort of quite viscerally to it as it unfolds. It seems there are two kind of schools of thought in composition. There are the people who plan everything out, to the last detail before writing any music, which is the way they teach it at Juilliard. And then there's composers like me who sort of bumble along, really. And I like to capture in bar one what a piece is about, and then see where that idea takes me. Still with an eye on, making it formally interesting, but not to try and premeditate too much. And this was a piece that was very much in that vein, really. Yeah. It was just seeing how it unfolded.
And then, do you like kind of writing for pianos? Because obviously we met when Piano Circus were playing your piece, Aerobatics over Lake Wanaka, which is absolutely fantastic. But you took that from a two piano sonata, didn't you? It was one of the movements from a two piano sonata. So you write quite a lot for pianos, and I know really hard on that Piano Circus piece because we were adding things, and you came to work with us. And
that's right. And I mean, I was utterly inspiring to work with you guys for that, because previously, I mean, because you're all just utterly dazzling players, but then also then there's 6 of you. Originally, it was written again in the studio, actually with no without a thought actually about how many pianos would play it. All I was doing was literally just kind of sort of vomiting out these notes, and I was recording it on a sequencer, and I was sort of working as I went. But I think one of the things about writing in that vein, when you have a piano, obviously a piano is a very it's an intriguing instrument because it's an intriguing instrument for writing, because it doesn't have. I mean, I'm a string player, and so I'm used to be able to hold a bow and the note sustains. With pianos, of course, you have a sustain pedal, but it doesn't do the same thing. It's sort of halfway between strings and percussion. Well, technically it's a percussion instrument. Yeah. So you have to sort of, I find anyway, you have to keep it on the boil in other ways. You can't just extend the note. And one of the things that fascinates me about writing for the piano is how you can keep things on the boil, and in other words, keep them interesting, melodically, rhythmically, harmonically. And in order to do that, you do have to sort of keep an activity going in the kind of music that I like to write. I mean, obviously you can write very slow contemplative pieces, and that's sort of what Blackheath Crosslight is actually. But the writing of the aerobatics over Lake Wanaka thing originally was this sort of disgorging notes without any regard for how many pianos would play it. And then I thought, oh, well, this is just a bunch of notes and it's a bit of a mess and I need to sort of sort it out. But it would be great for that to be performed live. And so starting again at bar one, I started unpicking it and thinking, right, well, how can this actually be played and how many pianos will need it? I had a conversation actually with Leslie Howard, who's a friend of mine, pianist. And I said to him, look, is this bonkers? Can this actually be played? And he said, well, yeah, it can be done, but you're going to have to start stripping out some of the extraneous stuff, which is like, kind of dead wood, really, is not really needed. It doesn't convey the essence of what the piece is about. So I did that, and I did it for 2 pianos. And then the next thing that happened is that James came along from Piano Circus. He'd heard this 2-piano version of it, still studio rendered, which I think I put up on my website. He said, we'd love to do that for 6 pianos. And so in the first instance, my thought was, I would absolutely love to have this. I mean, and Piano Circus, I'll come to the Piano Circus connection actually originally for that piece in a minute. But my first thought was, it'd be amazing to have Piano Circus to play it. The next thought was, oh, but bollocks, that means that all that work I've got to do to strip it to 2 pianos, I've now got to expand it back out again. 6 pianos. So again, I started at bar one and started working it all through. And now it was the opposite job in many ways. I had to sort of try and make it interesting for 6 players.
In any way, shape or form, but we do have that discussion a lot. There are so many pieces, and it's like, okay, this is, such great music, but it can be played on 2 pianos. You have to have something that needs 6 players there, and not 6 players, going like one note.
Yeah, like ding, 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 ding. Yeah.
Or, all the interesting stuff, and you go down, piano 6 is literally like playing a chord or something. It has to be 6 virtuosic parts, and oh my God, yours was.
well, I mean, at least I'm glad that I managed to, sort of keep you all sort of engaged and interested with it. I mean, it is a challenge writing that amount of material for 6 pianos and keeping it interesting because, I mean, you don't need me to tell you that the thing about the 6 pianos, it's a very homogeneous tone. Mm-hmm. So the obvious thing is you separate the pianos into registers through.
Oh no!
Is that Riley?
I have to say hi. Sorry, everyone.
Oh, there's Riley. Oh, he's fantastic. Hello, Mummy. I'll just gate crash your Zoom. Don't mind me.
Okay, so, sorry. Please continue. He's.
That's fine.
Oh, he's sweet.
Brilliant. So yeah, that was the job with Lake Wanaka, with aerobatics over Lake Wanaka. But the interesting, perhaps the more pertinent story behind that piece is that it was written because I'd heard in the very early 90s Graham Fitkin, the CD that Piano Circus did. And my mind was blown because I'd never heard anything like that being done. And I'd never heard any music like that. And B, I'd never heard anything like that done with pianos. And sometimes, every now and then in one's composition career, these things happen where you hear something and you go, oh my God, my words has been turned upside down. I need to go and do something like that as a response. It's just like I have to respond to that. Aerobatics was written it was begun about probably 2 weeks after that, but that was in 1991, and then I set it aside, and then I didn't really come back to it in earnest and finish it as a piece properly until 1998, so 7 years later. And I thought, well, it's great to actually have the opportunity for that to be performed live, because of course it's all very well sitting in studios, living in your own little world, doing these things. But it makes all the difference having real flesh and blood. And somebody once described it as more atoms are moving. There's actual energy, there's actual people banging things, and it just feels more. Well, this one.
That's a really good description. But you've mentioned a couple of times now studios. So I'd love to know, like, kind of your compositional process. How do you sit down and compose at the piano, or do you on the violin, or do you use Logic and tech, and like how do you do it?
The answer is yes. Basically, it's all of those things. Probably, it's different for different projects. Some things make more sense than others. And I try and work in new ways wherever I can. But probably the most durable way that I've found over the years is a thing that I've ended up calling piano threads. Right. And what it is, it's using Logic or a sequencer and just a piano sound, nothing else, a piano sound, where the piano effectively is a proxy for whatever ultimately the musical, so the sound universe will be. And specifically, that is a way of stripping out all distractions of timbre and focusing in the first instance on the real meat of what the melodic material is, the motivic material, any rhythms, etc., and in harmony. Harmony is a big thing for me. What I mean by piano threads is that Logic has got this brilliant thing where it's called capture last take as recording. And what it does, it's just a button you can press. And all you do is you play a little phrase. You can just be in one hand, just go blah, 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 blah. And you might not like what you just played. And you haven't pressed play or record or anything. The sequence is just sitting there, stopped, idle. And eventually you find a thing, and then eventually if you find a little idea and you think, that's quite nice. If you like it, you just press this button, capture last take as recording, and it captures what you just did. So you don't have to have remembered to press record. Right. It's just there. And it's on the timeline, and you can look at it, and it's a thing, and you can go, do I like that? And you can go back and press play and go, I quite like that. And the brilliant thing is that you can then keep doing this process whilst the previous thing that you just played in is playing. So I might have gone, ba ba da ba da ba ba. Do I like that? Yes, capture. And the capture button, incidentally, both captures it and starts playing it. So immediately you go bang, and it starts playing, and you can respond by providing another line under it. It's going da 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 blah 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 blah. Put some other chords on or whatever. So it becomes a very fast way of working and adding little, and this is what I mean by threads. Yeah. It's tiny little threads which you then build up. And I mean, I'm not really a pianist. My piano playing, I sort of play cooking piano, a bit like cooking wine. So, I've mostly been in by ear play. So I've got a competent facility at the keyboard, but nothing like a proper player like you. So I cheat using this thing. And if I want to play like a fast series of chords that go bang, da, 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 I'll just go, I'll do the first one, I go bang, capture. And then I'll play, it goes back, the second one, capture, So I build up this thing. And eventually, it's a brilliant, brilliant way of interacting and shaping the material until I like the way it sounds.
God, that must take forever. It just must take forever. Well, I suppose it's like anything in music, isn't it? Even practicing and learning the notes. If I was doing that, but God, this is a thing which I'm trying to learn about. And we've had a million conversations about over the past few weeks with you helping out because I'm utterly clueless. But I'm just this.
But I mean, it does take a while. But the thing about it is, because of the way they've designed it, it's very clever. You don't have to worry about the distraction of whether you're ready to record something.
Yeah.
So you don't have to think, right, I'm going to practice. Right, now I'm ready to record. Because the moment you're in that situation, there's this pressure that you put on yourself. Oh, shit, I better get this take right, and then you get frustrated if it doesn't work. Now, the only downside to working like that, you are deliberately suspending questions of timbre and what the universe of the sound world is that you're working in. But there are ways around that, which I've found, working on a piece at the moment for Fenella Humphreys. The way that I've done that is I've used another piece of software called Ableton Live. I'll play my violin in for like a little phrase. I might, there's an accordion in this piece of writing, so I'll do a little accordion phrase, and Ableton's very good at snapping together things and making them sit together rhythmically, but you can change the pitch of one of them. So you can find these amazing combinations and textures.
Yeah.
And then in your mind, you said, great, so that's the world I'm going to work in. That's the timbre. Now I'm going to set that aside and I'm going to work on the notes and the chords and the harmony and the spine of the structure, so that I then can come back and apply this interesting timbre world that I've found to all of that.
How has your lockdown been?
No different to what it was before, I'm ashamed to say. Actually, that's not entirely true. I mean, obviously it's been different, but at the start of the lockdown, I thought, oh right, well, actually this could be quite brilliant, because it means I can really focus on work and doing new things. Now that it's opening up a bit, because I work at home, I say it's not that different, but I'm painfully aware that it's had a massive effect on all of my performer friends, such as you and Fenella and loads of other people, on my theatre friends as well, actors, directors, designers. I mean, their world has just stopped in many cases. So I consider myself very lucky that I've at least had a focus to carry on. But what that means in the future, I don't know. I'm trying not to think too far in the future.
God, me too, absolutely. Yeah. I'm trying to be just super positive and not think too much of the future. And of course, do things like this, which has really got me kind of reconnected with the piano, because it was so weird to just have everything completely stop like that, cut out.
What was your life up until that point? Were you doing a mixture of concerts and?
Yeah, loads of stuff. Excuse me, and a little bit of teaching, loads of concerts, lots of orchestral things, lots of kind of contemporary chamber things. But it was, it was 100 miles an hour all the time.
Mm.
I had this pile of music on the piano that I'd have to come home and do right, I need to run through all those notes for tomorrow, and I need to run through that for next week. And there's a big thing coming up in 3 weeks' time, so I need to make sure I start that. And it was just one after the other, and loaded.
I can't even conceive of how that works. My God, I mean,
I absolutely loved it, but it was 100 miles an hour and absolutely mental. And then I need to make sure I fit in my teaching in, and I need to make sure I've done this. And a day at home was just, oh my God, luxurious. But I used to spend my days at home, doing laundry and taking the dog for a walk and making
sure. So was there kind of a period where you're like kind of knocked back and you just didn't know what to do?
Absolutely knocked back, didn't know what to do. I mean, the period it all came to an end, I was actually at the car with a suitcase ready to go to Scotland for a week. Just going, checking my phone every 2 minutes, going, is this going to be cancelled? Is this, oh my God, it's cancelled, as I was parking the car, getting ready to go on the train. So it was just really weird. And it knocked me for six. I kind of sat here and I kind of stared at the piano and went, well, what's the point? Just what is the point?
The whole thing about having a job is about knowing that you are making a sort of a positive impact on other people's lives. That's what inspires you, and that's what gets you through each day, is knowing that what you're doing has a meaning for somebody else. That got sort of taken away in large part initially. I think that was the initial reaction, and now it's coming back. But it's difficult to remind oneself to keep perspective about it, I suppose. I certainly had a bit of a struggle with that. And the thing about composers, it's about that thing of, what's going to be this situation? Am I writing into a vacuum? Am I just doing it and nobody will ultimately listen? Yeah. But in some ways, that's the lot of composers anyway, is that you sort of have to write whether you think it'll ultimately be performed or not. I'm like a lot of composers in that I can only really function on a deadline. I'm not very good at writing music for myself. When the deadlines themselves vanish because there are no project, it becomes a bit tricky to define what your life is about.
Yeah.
You know, but
We remain positive, and then I would like to know what's next for you then. What can we listen to? What is coming up? Is there anything?
yes, well, there's this piece I'm writing for Fenella Humphreys. I mean, Fenella's brilliant. She's, apart from the fact she's a brilliant player, she's also a fantastic sort of force for new music. She's so always full of energy, she's so full of enthusiasm and positivity, and keen to get new music written and for to play it. So this is a piece that she's asked me and a couple of other composers to do. We're writing interstitial pieces between the movements of the four seasons. And that's due for performance in September. It's for a very unusual lineup of violin, double bass, accordion, and percussion.
Fantastic!
Yeah, probably been one of the hardest pieces I've ever had to write because I'm out of my box on a couple of things in that area. I've had to learn about properly writing for the accordion.
Accordion, yeah, I bet.
Yeah. And I mean, I say I had to learn. I mean, I'll learn on the first rehearsal day whether I actually learned it or not. Looking further ahead, I did start a violin concerto, which is work in progress, but that's one for further away. I'm working on other little bits and pieces in the studio. Again, these are more projects that are not commissioned, but I'm doing them. I'm in lockdown mode. I'm thinking, well, if I don't write them now, when am I going to write them?
Yeah.
Literally, I have no excuse now. So if I don't write now, so that I'm just rubbish if I can't do them now. So that's what I'm trying to do. What I have learned really, working with people like you and Fenella and other groups, is that the prospect of having a live performance is often the primary motivator for getting the thing underway at all. You can write ideas in the studio 10 a penny, but unless you actually have somebody who says it's going to be on the such and such of September, it doesn't actually get done. So thank you for doing that sort of thing.
My pleasure. And now we're going to put the Blackheath Crosslight video on, and I wanted to say thank you to Adrian, who has been so wonderful and so supportive of me in my tech learning stage.
Oh, well, pleasure. Anytime.
A million texts going like, what do I do? How do I do this? Where do I put the mic? Game.
Years of working in studios, having to go through all of that aggro. So.
Yeah, oh my God, and it's so basic as well. It's like microphones 101. So you've been a massive help. Thank you, lovely. And it's been lovely to chat. We are having some red wine, as you can see. So,
we are.
Cheers to Adrian Sutton.
Cheers.